are now tapped in.
You are traveling with the Hood Mystic. Time to tap in now. Your favorite mystic's favorite mystic. Your favorite astrologer's favorite astrologer.
You are now tapped in with the Hood Mystic.
I miss the feeling of new memories. I miss the feeling of waking up to something unpredictable.
Peace to the tribe, peace to the collective. I am the Hood Mystic, and I care about your spiritual development. In this video, we will be discussing the new moon in Scorpio in multiple parts to give you a clear, robust, heavily indexed understanding of this upcoming new moon in Scorpio, utilizing the spiritual tool known as Sidereal astrology. First things first, I want to say thank you for watching this video. And if you enjoy this content and like seeing this content, please go ahead and click the like button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and tell somebody about this video. Thank you. The new moon, it takes place November 23rd, 2022, and new moons are very powerful, and I'll explain in the multiple ways of why it is powerful. But in a simpler understanding, the new moon is a time to set intentions, and this will lay out the themes over the next 30 days. Along with this new moon, we have Mercury conjunct Venus, also in Sidereal Scorpio, as well as having Mercury, Venus, the sun and moon in the same Vedic lunar mansion called Anuradha, and we'll talk about that later as well. This lunar moon in the area of the cosmos that is related to is usually centered in relationships, sex, death, ancestors, and wealth. I like to call Scorpio the bank. The purpose of Scorpio energy is to find solutions for your community while also adapting and finding new ways to live in harmony with our loved ones and ancestors. Since Mercury is conjunct Venus, we have a heavily Venusian influence in the sign of Scorpio during this new moon energy. And Venus, the third brightest star, or the most brightest star if you're discounting the sun and the moon, it allows for a lot of opportunities, enlightenment, spiritual development, and of course my favorite, true love. New moons are times to set intentions, plan, and examine your goals. But unfortunately, we get so caught up in our linear thinking that we, as spiritual beings having a human experience, feel disconnected from the cosmos. However, if you want to connect to the cosmos, the new moon present a blank slate so we could tap into the triple black darkness of space found through our melanin production from our pineal gland. You can use the date of November 23rd to set your intentions, rituals, and other magical workings with the higher probability that they will work if you maintain them and keep your awareness on said manifestations. Why are new moons so powerful? I explained this over the years, but I'll take some time in this video to explain the power of new moons. Your brain has an organ or a major endocrine gland called the pineal gland. And what the pineal gland does, it regulates and produces hormones such as melatonin and other powerful hormones. But the main hormone that we want to talk about is melatonin. Melatonin production, it creates our dreams and our sleeps. The pineal gland also assists in our memory, creativity, intuition, and critical thinking. So when you think about how to manifest a positive life experience, you would have to utilize your pineal gland and your melatonin to help support you mood-wise, right? Say, for instance, you're in a bad mood and you just want to lay in bed. Well, you're not going to really have positive life experiences with the covers over your head. Sometimes you got to have the proper mood that will then support the life experiences. So in the spiritual development and spiritual journey, it's not always what's happening on the outside. The trick of spiritual development, the trick of the spiritual journey is that everything that you want to happen on the outside, you have to monitor what's going on the inside. And regulating your pineal gland distribution, keeping track of your circadian rhythms, keeping track of new moons to full moons, in tandem with your intentions, it makes the spiritual journey so much easier. If you get I'm going to just say this one more time, you can get $1 million, but if your insides aren't to a level that I like to call homeostasis, it will always seem like something is wrong. However, if you have $10 and you manage your internal regulatory systems and achieve homeostasis, awaken Kundalini, then you'll naturally create more and more and manifest more and more because your insides are at a regulated process. So when we are divorced from this system, such as our pineal gland, our chakras, and regulating our endocrine system as a whole, we are essentially disconnected from our natural cycles. What happens with melatonin, it rises every day, the sun sets. So you could be having a great day and then the sunset, it gets dark and then you start yawning, you get tired. Well, that's your pineal gland producing melatonin, giving you the signal, hey, it's time to go to sleep. So what happens when we go to sleep, our body doesn't go to sleep, our ego goes to sleep, which allows our melanin or melatonin to rise. And when we're sleeping, we're dreaming, we're connecting to the cosmos, the different realities. And this is all happening because our melatonin is rising. It can happen throughout the day, throughout meditation and daydreaming and things of that nature, but it happens all the time without fail when we're sleeping. So being aware of this process and utilizing the power of your melatonin during a new moon, your melatonin is at its highest point. Now, it could be a random, regular day, November 23rd, or it could be an intentional day, or it could be a day where you're utilizing what you're trying to create, or even better, how you are trying to feel, and set the intention of how you're trying to feel in tandem with the new moon to get what you want out of it. New moons are perfect to set intentions because you have heightened melatonin. Melatonin is produced by your body, but is primarily activated through darkness. The new moon is the darkest time of the 28-day cycle. During the darkest time, your melatonin is rising. So when your melatonin rises, you're able to put more energy, more triple black darkness energy towards what you want out of life. Let's read a quote from Siri Cohen, which says, melatonin's relationship with the lunar cycle is less well established. Melatonin, which is a suppressive gonadal function, seems to have its highest secretion during the new moon. Many women tend to menstruate with the new moon and sleep more during this time as well. So whether you have a menstruation during a new moon, during a full moon, during a quarter moon, or just at random times, you can always relate your menstruation cycle to the new moon because the moon is taken from the word menses. So you have menses, you have moon, and you have the word month, and all of these words represent the same thing. As spiritual beings having human experiences, we are just simply microcosms or mini versions to the macrocosm or the larger universe. So when we tune in to our inner reality, we are actually tuning into the cosmos. So if we tune into our inner reality and it is like, chaos, then our outer world is chaos. When we tune in with a genuine focus to establish peace, to establish serenity, to establish wealth, then guess what? The outer world is the same thing. And this is what Scorpio teaches us. The new moon takes place in Sidereal Scorpio. The constellation in Latin is Scorpius, and known to astrologers as Scorpio. It is the southernmost or the deepest constellation of the zodiac, or one could say the gateway to the underworld. Scorpio used to be larger as a constellation because the stars that are known as Libra, because the stars of Libra were known to the ancients as the claws of Scorpio. Now that those stars are part of another constellation, the sun is only going to spend 7 to 9 days in the constellation of Scorpio, making sun transits, moon transits, any transits in Scorpio as portals or gateways to other dimensions. The sun spends the rest of the days in the constellation of Ophiuchus, the serpent holder. The sun will then spend the rest of his days, about 21 days, in the constellation of Ophiuchus, the serpent holder, before eventually moving on to Sagittarius. The reason why these three constellations are very high charge and superpowered is because of its position along the ecliptic in alignment with the Milky Way. Now, the Milky Way is an assortment of millions, if not billions, of stars, planets, and galaxies at so close of a proximity that it gives off this gassy light. And each molecule of that gaseous light could be a whole galaxy, planets, stars, faraway energies. And so what you have is a consolidation of cosmic energy. When you align your meditations, your intentions with the sun-moon processions along Scorpio, Ophiuchus, and Sagittarius, you are doing very powerful spiritual work. Because as I stated earlier, the inside is the microcosm or the mini cosmos, your chakras representing the planetary alignment of the solar system, and just having an overall connection to the cosmos is always great. But when you bring in timing in relation to the sun and the moon, it makes these spiritual processes and spiritual development to be not only great, but extraordinary. You will then understand why on the news, social media, and wherever you turn, you're constantly being distracted from yourself in your spiritual development. The understanding of Scorpio as a portal, because we are microcosmos to the larger macrocosmo. As I'm stating, Scorpio in medical astrology is assigned to the genitals, making the sexual organs of human beings the portals for which man comes, no pun intended, and goes. Minus a few test tube babies have came through the portal of the womb for human life. And that human vessel is the house to our soul. As spiritual beings, we understand the vagina, the vulva, the womb, and the human reproductive system as the actual gateway and portal to life itself. The Egyptian viewed Scorpio as a symbol of life and death. They personified Scorpio as the goddess Serket, whose symbolic animal was a a scorpion. Scorpio representing water. And also when you talk about water, we're understanding the emotional plane, understanding our emotional intelligence. And deeper, we also understand emotions as the deep love that our ancestors have for us. For most of us, we can't even perceive our ancestors and understand our ancestors. We are very ignorant to the science of ancestors, but with all of that being said, our ancestors still love us unconditionally. So when we want to tap into the ancestral plane, we utilize the cosmic womb known as Scorpio because our ancestors created us through the physical womb. But if we ever wanted to contact or connect to our ancestors, we could utilize these times of the sun, moon being in Scorpio. And when the sun and moon is in Ophiuchus and the sun and moon is in Sagittarius, these are all times to really tap in, for a lack of better words. To understand Scorpio, you also can understand what it is to be a spiritual being in a world where people are not spiritual beings. There is a spiritual war that takes place in the spiritual realm. Mainly, it is due to people signing up for various contracts and wanting to have certain levels of success and certain levels of money. And then people sign these contracts and they do business with these type of people. I'm not even going to say no names, but y'all know what I'm talking about. And then they turn around and say, oh, I got screwed out of my record deal. Oh, this contract is messed up. Oh, you working me too much. Oh, I hate doing this. I hate being here. This is messed up. Why is y'all treating me like this? This is really found in the fable of the scorpion and the frog. I'm going to let Don Cheadle give us a little quick understanding of the scorpion and the frog, and I'll explain what he's talking about.
So the scorpion asked this frog to carry it across a stream, something, whatever. And the frog is like, no way, man, you're going to sting me. And the scorpion assures the frog that this is in neither of their best interests. I mean, I kill you, I drown, right? So the frog sees the wisdom in this, and scorpion hops on his back, boom, off they go. Then midstream, sure enough, scorpion stings the frog. And as they both start to sink, the dying frog manages a weak, why? And the scorpion says, because I'm a motherfucking scorpion. That's why.
What he's trying to explain to spiritual beings is that everybody not like you. Everybody not going to treat you the same way that you're going to treat them. And you need to understand people. You need to have discernment as to, will this person play me to the left? Can I trust this person? As a spiritual being, some people do not understand the power that they have, and they sign these contracts and they do these things and they give their power away. And then when their power is turned against them, they are very, very confused. Well, the scorpion and the frog, it teaches about being naive. It teaches us about trusting others more than you trust yourself, and to never be surprised at a person's nature. Don't be mad at the results if you trust somebody more than you trust yourself. If you're giving all of your power, if you're giving and you're in a vulnerable position just to get turned around and get screwed or played, well, that's the nature of being vulnerable. So learn to be self-reliant, learn to let go for the opportunity to gain a connection to the ancestors. But let's look closer at the constellation of Scorpio. As you can see, you have a crab and a Shuba, which represent the mouth of Scorpio, or the gateway, or the portal. Scorpio along the ecliptic is banked by two major stars. Well, three, but two major groups of stars. You have the first group, which is the opening, a crab and the Shuba, or the gateway or the portal. And then you have Antares, which represents the heart or the jewel of Scorpio. Today, we're going to focus on a crab and the Shuba because that is where the sun and the moon is conjunct. And even though I'm sharing a lot of information, I do not want to give you guys information overload, whereas you're not able to fixate and focus on the point. You are the living vessel of the living God, but you are disconnected from the science. So first things first, homeostasis. Next thing, observation, interpretation, application, results, right? The stars that are positioned as the gateways to the opening of Scorpio are called a crab and a Shuba. The nature of these stars correspond to Mars, right? That means that when you read about certain nature of stars, it's good to understand the basics of the 7 major chakras or 7 major planets, because everything then becomes an interpolation or a remix or a sampling of those initial 7 basic classical planets. So a crab and a Shuba have the nature of Mars and the nature of Saturn. Mars is very active, very wild, very going to get it, very straightforward, while Saturn is very disciplined and knows what the outcome is. So it might do the thing that Mars is looking at. Why are you doing that? Why are you folding your papers? Why are you taking your time? Because Saturn knows that you need to fold papers and take your times to get the results. And because Mars has the energy, it thinks go, 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 go. So let me break this down into simpler words. When you're younger and you have a lot of sexual energy and you can just spread it and it's free and it feels good, you experience those sexual energies and sexual vibrations for the most part. And to do that is not wise, right? But people do it anyway. People are having parties, kickbacks, having sex because the energy is right and it feels good, but it tends to not work out the way you want. Now, when you get older, see, the beginning phases is our Martian phases of Scorpio. Now, the older energies fall into Saturn and then eventually Pluto. But the middle part is Saturn, where you are understanding that I can't just have sex all the time with whoever I want to because I think they're cute. I have to have discernment. So Scorpio has the nature of Mars. Well, these stars in particular, and most stars in Scorpio have the nature of Mars, and if they get mature, they'll have the nature of Saturn. So let's understand this scorpionic force, right? Let's get into the understanding. In Hindu, they called a crab and the Shuba the 15th nakshatra, Anuradha, as we stated earlier, the goddess of good luck, okay? So Anuradha is a Sanskrit word that means pure affection, happiness. I would say Anuradha would be the word joy. And what do we understand about joy? Joy comes from the inside, okay? And the outside is called happiness. So certain things people do to conjure happiness, but the reality of joy, you do not have to conjure. It is a purity. It is a state of being. It is a homeostasis. The deity over Nakshatra is Mitra, the god of companionship. He is also the god over contracts, right? So, like I'm saying, a lot of artists, a lot of entertainers, a lot of sports stars, they sign contracts, and those contracts are ruled over the god Mitra or Mitra. He is the patron of honesty, friendship, contracts, and meetings. Mitra is the world's guardian, the maintainer of order, and a barrier against falsehood. The reason why this is such a powerful energy is because in order to be wealthy, in order to be protected, in order to be free, you have to have relationships. The relationships, they could end up good, they could end up bad, and you have no control over this. So the ancients developed a personification of a overlord over said contracts, relationships, meetings, partnerships, you name it, to make sure that nothing went awry. So when these things tend to happen and people have public outcries, they did me wrong with this business, this, that, and the third, what they're saying is they're out of alignment with Mitra. Another understanding of Mitra is not with like boardroom meetings. It could mean that for sure, but another boardroom meeting, for a lack of a better word, is our soul ties or our sexual partners. Now, when this energy comes in alignment, when the sun, moon conjuncts a crab into Shubha, your soul ties begin to activate. Now, this could be a good thing or a bad thing. Modern society does not teach you about soul ties. The earlier understanding of the Scorpionic force, hey, have sex with people that you like. You have sex with people that you like, they don't tell you you're going to have a soul tie. And the reality of soul ties is that they don't always activate all the time. You could have sex with people and then one day you could just wake up and feel shitty and not know why you're feeling so shitty. And the reality is because usually 9 times out of 10, the moon is in Scorpio, a planet is in Scorpio, something is happening in Scorpio, and now your soul ties are buzzing. If you're smart about your soul ties, you do not have to utilize the Martian force of the Scorpionic energy early in life. You could be Saturnian about it and be wise about it and limit the amount of soul ties you have. And then when the sun and moon conjunct Scorpio and your ancestors send you messages, they don't have to go through all of your partner's ancestors to get to you. It's just a clear, straight path to get to you, the less soul ties that you have. This is not a moral thing. This is just a reality thing. This is a mental health, emotional health thing, meaning that because you feel bad, because you do not have a clear connection with your ancestors, because you're so confused by all of the soul ties, you won't verbalize it. And people won't verbalize it. It'll just be a whole bunch of confused people not understanding why they're confused. And the easiest, simple understanding of why people are mentally and emotionally disturbed, especially ever since the sun has entered Libra, is mainly due to soul ties. If your sexual energy is not confused, you're in a committed, loving relationship, and you and your partner have connections with the ancestral realms, then the blessings or the prosperity or the wealth or whatever you need to manifest for you right now is an easy channel. As they like to say in the spiritual community, the veil is thin, but hopefully you have raised your energy beyond your root chakra, beyond your sacral, beyond your solar, into the heart chakra, where you're learning to love unconditionally. But there is a dark side to loving unconditionally, which is having discernment, because relationships, partnerships, and networks, they do have shady characters, but that does not stop people from partnering and creating businesses with people and or sexual relationships with people. But understand, the people that you have sex with, the people that you have relationships with, the people that you do business with are deeply connected to how you gain wealth and how you maintain wealth. So if you find yourself like lonely or out of touch or no relationships, no partnership, no business, this is the intention that you should be setting. This is the work that you should be doing, because nobody lives on an island. Nobody lives on a vacuum. We have to learn how to relate to other people, even if it's difficult. So utilize the new moon in Scorpio as a time to build your team, as a time to get into a relationship, start a relationship, learn again. You've had many countless bad relationships before. Well, it's time to hop back on that horse and see if this time will work. Because you cannot do it by yourself. And even though it might suck and it's hard to do it alone, it's not anything to do with the external. Everything is a relation to how deeply you could listen to your soul, follow your soul, be in alignment with your soul. And you just have to notice that timing and being in divine timing is it matters how much you are in connection to the divinity within you. Choosing the people that you partner with, whether relationships, business, sexual, is very serious. And we can use these new moons to strengthen the bonds of those people that we love, or we could release the bonds of those people that no longer serve us. So let's dive in and tap into the esoteric nature of the new moon. As Scorpio is associated with sexuality, it is only natural for this sign to rule over the organs of procreation, the genitals, and the womb. The hidden meaning of the new moon as how do you face your fear? Do you cope with your anxiety to handle it, or do you face it to remove it? Because handling fear is like holding fire. It'll consume you eventually. All spiritual beings deal with fear. And if you wish to evolve as a spiritual being, you need to understand how fear is holding you back. And how are you going to do alchemy on that fear to remove the fear out of your being so you could begin to move forward? This is a Scorpio trope. Water is also Scorpio's element, which addresses our emotional plane of existence. And let's understand, the emotional plane of existence is the deep love of the ancestors, the deep love the ancestors have for us, the ignorant. And we understand the emotional plane as the yoni because the yoni is the gateway to the spiritual realm. You can value your yoni to be a divine portal to the ancestors, or you can sell your yoni for $40 at a strip club. It's completely up to you. But as I said, if you value your yoni, your womb, to be that, and not in just mere thoughts, but in particular actions and understandings. Like, I love my yoni, but I let anybody have sex with me, is not true value. The yoni is the womb. It is the woman's reproductive system, but it's also the source of all creation. It is the source of your mind, and the mind is all. Because we are coming from this portal, cosmic and physical, we as spiritual beings have a close relationship to the yoni. Some people see the yoni and they want to pervert it, while others want to protect the yoni and learn from the yoni. You can't look at the world and say everybody is having sex, so I just might as well have sex, because for spiritual beings, sex isn't just sex. As spiritual beings, we understand that the body is the temple and the vessel for the divine. And usually we have to forget and we have to remember. In this process of forgetting and remember, establishing the connection to the ancestors is this process found in Scorpio. The times that we forget that we are spiritual beings having human experiences are our unpleasant times. The times that we remember that we are spiritual beings having a human experience enlightens bliss at all times. When we are conscious and able to recognize our energetic emotional plane and flow, this is the energy of Scorpio. When we recognize the value of our vessel, the value of our womb, the value of our genitals, we are in Scorpio energy. During this new moon, if fear arises, this should be explored, because in this article that I was reading about fear, understanding fear and doing alchemy on fear is actually healthy. Looking at fear and being afraid of fear or not addressing fear is kind of unhealthy. Learning to overcome your fear will reveal the treasure on the other side. And if you are able to overcome that fear, you are in the energy of Scorpio. During this spiritual journey, sometimes we gotta hold on tight to the ones we love and what we stand for. And then sometimes we need to let go completely and never look back. When we are in those modes, when we have to hold on to something and we really want to let go, and as a spiritual being, you know you have to hold on to it, you don't have to have the emotional reaction to life as if you're doing something wrong. Vice versa, when you let something go and it's a part of your spiritual journey, if you're turning around feeling bad, then you're out of the scorpionic element. It's sort of a cold, not heartless, but understanding that in order for me to evolve, in order for me to ascend, the only way for me to do this is if I let go. Our emotions determine our feelings based on our sexual actions or inactions. If you feel virtuous for not getting none, the Scorpio energy is going to mess you up. It's not about having all of the sex in the world, nor is it about not having sex at all. It's about finding the middle ground of understanding your sexual truth and living in that sexual truth with discernment. When we understand our spiritual nature and we're true about our sexual energy, then we unlock the doors to the spiritual safe. When we are closed off and unaware of our sexual energy and just freely giving it away, we are closed off from the spiritual truth. Now, when you are in alignment with your sexual energy and your mental energy, you will learn from the heart chakra, you will learn to love unconditional. What loving unconditional is saying, I'm sharing my energy with you because I want to. It's not I'm sharing my energy with you and if you hurt me, I'm gonna be sad again. Love from a raised energy perspective where you are just giving to give is much different from loving from a lower chakra or unawakened space. So you can't say, everybody treats me bad if you haven't raised your energy. Once you raise your energy to the heart chakra, learn love unconditionally. Whether a person loved you back or not is not the point. The point is, if you want love, you give love because you are love. And this is also Scorpio. A person who does not know that they're a portal or a gateway to the divine, a person that does not value themselves sexually, will cheapen or lessen the sexual experience with their vessel. Now, as I said, on the contrary, the person who realized their womb is a gateway and they are connected to the divine, they are not going to give themselves away so freely and easily because they value their lives and their energy and they're willing to be patient. And also, when you're dealing with Scorpio, there is a Mars nature, so you can't just be waiting forever. Sometimes you have to say something, but your Scorpio or your sexual energy will tell you what to do and when to do it. As a spiritual being, you have to listen. I've said a lot of things about divinity in this video, and I want to be clear. To be divine, you do not have to act towards being divine. The nature of divinity is very simple. Your body is the vessel of the living God. It is present. It is now. It is not in a church. It is not in a temple. It is not in a mosque. It is not in an ethno-religion. It's not in an ethnic group. It's not in a race. God is in you, pure and simple. Because we have minds, we imagine that, the door that we open, the car that we drive is a complicated machinery. Thus, our divinity must be as complicated or even more complicated than the car that we're driving. And that's just not the reality. You have to reduce yourself to something very simple, very primal, and very sexual to understand the nature of divinity. The sexual organs, if you meditate with them, you steam with them, you recognize them as portals, you also understand that your sexual organs are extremely intelligent. Things such as pheromones, things such as baths and perfumes and colognes and certain fabrics that, learning what colors work with you, what outfits to wear, what coffee shop to go to, will always bring you into a specific alignment with what your sexual organs want to relate to or connect with. There's a show on Netflix that detail this process, that our sexual organs, if we listen to them long enough, they'll begin to talk to us. And usually, they talk to you by, hey, I want to have sex, or let's watch porn, or let's call that girl over. This is your sexual organs talking to you, but you need to understand, is it talking to you from a Martian perspective, or is it talking to you from a Saturnian perspective, as we were discussing earlier? The goal of life is not to ignore sex, but to experience it with wisdom and charity, unconditionally, freely, with no hopes of anything in return, because you are the source, you are the connection point. But we also understand, as we are learning about our sexual organs and our spiritual development, we are learning that we need to protect ourselves with peace, protecting ourselves through meditation and distance and discernment, because everybody does not deserve your light. Everybody does not share your same nature. Most of us struggle with this understanding. Most of us come out of bad relationships in order to find another relationship, and it just ends up even worse than the relationship that we came out of. Until we learn that we are the common denominator, until we learn that we need to rise our energy, we will keep going lower and sinking deeper into our Negredo. And once we reach our breaking point, like a phoenix, we rise out of the ashes, which is the final stage of Scorpio. After you've made all the mistakes and horrible decisions, you come to the realization this is the mistake that you're making. And once you begin to resolve that mistake and live a life that is more centered on establishing homeostasis and establishing spiritual truth, what you will notice is the most spiritual people have the most highest equivalent to sexual energy. So let's conclude. The new moon is an astrological aspect in transit that occurs when the sun and moon are conjunct. Every 28 days, this occurrence happens, and in ancient cosmology, these times represent a new beginning. Therefore, it is best to use new moons as times to set intentions. This new moon will take place in the sign of Sidereal Scorpio and be in the Anuradha Nakshatra. Scorpio represents emotions, gateways, and wealth, amongst other things. We also understand that our serious undertakings should not be done alone, and although we need relationships, we must discern the quality of our relationships based upon our ability to develop spiritually. It is an inside creates the outside game. You must decide whether to hold on or let go as a spiritual being. And when it comes to ascension and evolution, letting go is a requirement, because as you grow, you will make different choices and do different things that don't always relate to the past. This moon in particular represents spiritual growth and spiritual connection, which doesn't rely on whether you made the best or correct decisions in the past, but rather you are strong enough to let go all of it to find peace in this moment. Because if you were to access the wealth of the soul, understanding that the ancestors, the soul, they love you unconditionally. So that love that they have for you is kind of weird that you take the unconditional love of the soul spiritual realm and then present conditional love on the physical realm, 3D realm. So learning how to establish unconditional love in the 3D realm is how you translate your spiritual reality into the physical reality. But you must feel worthy, and you need to understand that worthiness is an interior job that you must do. So learn to make better decisions, stay in alignment, and be relatively simple. Just understand that you are the living vessel of the living God in the present moment, and learn to let go of all of the things that complicate that process. And if you're able to do that, you will be in the essence of the Scorpio new moon, which is centered on alchemy. What are some things that you can let go of to lead a simpler life, a more fulfilling life for the next 28 days? Let's get into some more key points before we end this video. Scorpio is a gateway portal, or yoni. Yoni is a gateway portal in the source of all creation. We all came from one. Whether you make the connection to sexuality and spirituality, that's on you. Whether you value yourself, that's on you. Valuing yourself is an inside job and requires you to let a lot of stuff go to grasp a simple concept of just simply being present and being aligned with the ancestors. Connect to your sexual, spiritual energy. Another word for this is called Kundalini, which represents the spiritual intelligence that lies dormant inside of you till you actively, consciously awaken it. Please remember that God lives within you. It is ever moving, changing, and evolving. Ironically, it is not found in a temple, mosque, church, or corporation. We, in this space and time, are the living vessel of God. Let's break this down and we're going to end this video. Mars rules Scorpio, and Scorpio represents the sexual organs, which means that the sexual energy and reproductive energy is always at play. Your ability to tune into this reality is what makes you God. If you want to read this transcript, please visit my Substack. The link will be in the description. Please join my subscription for $5 a month, or you can pay for the whole year for as little as $55. All of my writings will be there, and most of the writings that I post will be paid content. So if you don't want to miss out on the information and want to read it a little early and you want to take it seriously, go ahead, subscribe to my Substack. I really do appreciate all of the support. White Rabbit Psychedelics, link in the description. ColumbianExchange.com, link in the description. And of course, hoodmystic.com, link in the description. Peace. I'll catch you all on the flip side. Make sure you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful new moon.
You are now tapped in.
You are traveling with the Hood Mystic. Time to tap in now. Your favorite mystic's favorite mystic. Your favorite astrologer's favorite astrologer.
You are now tapped in with the Hood Mystic.
I miss the feeling of new memories. I miss the feeling of waking up to something unpredictable. Unpredictable.